thank you, but thank you. Not thank you for not being part of so many sessions. Anna doesn't come in for other sessions. He put some comments in the chat, but he doesn't land up. So anyway, thank you both of you. And what I'm going to do is, it's a little different format. You will talk about yourselves later, but first, Anna, you're going to tell us about the conference. What is this conference all about? Yes, Anna. What do you say?
What I see?
What do you say about the conference? What is the conference all about?
What can I say about the conference? Oh, it's a huge, it's for me a meeting with the big number of mediators all over the world. And it is a great work of the Mediator Vikram. Thank you for this opportunity. I always, after each session, participation in each session, say you, I'm very thankful for you for this possibility and opportunity for me to join this conference, to be the part of this conference, and to share my knowledges and my experience in my practice. I took part in the session of about the school mediation, about the emotional intelligence, and today's session about the mediation and refugees. Each session for me was a new meeting with the new people, people with their own experience, and after that, I feel calmness. I feel happiness to be the part of such a big community in the whole world.
So nice, Anna. Now you know why I asked you to. If I keep saying, I will not say such nice things about myself also. So thank you very much for being part of it. Very nice. Thank you.
Do you want me to tell about myself? Yes.
After that. First, the conference.
Okay.
I mean, look, the thing is, the idea is that people should know what we are part of. So Victor's also going to tell us about the conference. And every time, so look, everyone comes up with such interesting, nice things that I just feel good. Yes, Victor, what do you say?
Wow. Just to build up on what Anna's just said, I think this is the biggest conclave or meeting of mediators from across the world. And what I love about Vikram's approach to these conversations is the fact that it's people driven. You know, we all sat down at some point and we generated topics that we felt would be of significant importance to the mediation community across the globe. So every time I think of this conference, I just think, you know, a world of mediators coming together, trying to gel, trying to speak on issues that are not only important to us as mediation, but important outside there. So that's what I see and think about the mediation conference. And then again, beyond that, you know, I see a man on a mission who is trying to see to it that mediation gets out there in the world. And that is something that is very important. And thank you so much, Vikram, for doing that. We can't thank you enough. At some point, I said that, you know, you have sort of sentenced yourself to that seat. You have condemned your seat. You've condemned yourself to that seat where you are sitting on, just to see to it that mediation is spread across the globe. And that is something that is very nice. And we are good to have you as maybe a founding father of modern mediation.
Wow, that's a title. That's an amazing title. But this thing for sure, you said, I've sentenced myself to this chair. I will totally agree with you. It was not supposed to happen that way. But just because of people like you, both of you, say such nice things, that keeps me going. And I said, wow, this sentence is okay. I don't mind this one. So
you're a prisoner of mediation.
Yes, but a happy prisoner, a very happy prisoner.
Yes.
So Anna, now it is time for you to tell us about yourself.
My name is Anna Dushkova. I am a mediator, lawyer, and trainer in communication skills and skills of emotional intelligence, and I am from Ukraine. Now I had to evacuate from my native country because of the war in our country, and I'm abroad during 3 months, and the situation in our country isn't very safe it is, so we decided just to be here. I continue to practice as a mediator, as a trainer, and do a lot of online trainings and webinars for adults, for children. I have online programs and courses on communication skills and skills of emotional intelligence for the pupils, children of the school. And for the adults, we conduct such trainings, online courses for the employers, workers of the big corporative companies, for the private lawyers, advocates, for the judges, for the representatives of the educational sphere, for the representatives of the business sphere. And I really admire this sphere of my job. Of course, I continue to practice as a mediator. When the war started, we continued to practice as a mediator with the cases which were which happened because of the war. And I practice in the family conflicts and the school conflicts, with the business conflicts, labor conflicts, and of course now I work mostly in online. That's about me.
Great. No, you're doing good work, Anna. That's really nice. Victor, please.
Thank you. Maybe before I get to introduce myself, I've just had one thought that has crossed my mind about this conference, and it's a melting pot of different people from different parts of the world, diversity. There's lots of different customs. There's lots of different professions. You know, traditionally, when you talk about mediation, the first thing that comes to your mind is a lawyer. But I'm really glad that through this conference, I've come to realize that mediation is not just tailor-made for lawyers. We have psychologists, we have people practicing emotional intelligence, as Anna is doing. So in a nutshell, that's what the mediation conference is all about. It's a melting pot where we have different mediators from different parts of the world coming together and just trying to put out their mind out there. With that, I'd like maybe to introduce myself. And before I can do that again, I just want to wish all refugees a happy World Refugees Day. And Anna, our thoughts and prayers are definitely with you and other Ukrainians. We are praying and we are trying to do what we can do to see to it that normalcy comes back to Ukraine. So with that, I'd like to introduce myself as Victor Baba Emmanuel Aligo, and I have the rare privilege of having 3 nationalities in one lifetime. So that's very interesting. There's a part of me that is a South Sudanese, there's a part of me that is Kenyan, and there's a part of me that is Somalian. My part as a South Sudanese is by birth. In Kenya, I'm a resident, and in Somalia, I've had the huge privilege of lecturing and doing a number of things in Somalia from a capacity building perspective. Additionally, I am a mediator and a lawyer, and I am venturing into the academia space because there's need for a lot of research and development in the mediation practice, if you ask me. So in a few words, that's who Victor Baba Emmanuel Aligo is. And thank you for having me, Mediator Vikram.
Oh, thank you, Victor, for being part of this. The 2 things that have come out from what you said. One is you said, of course, diversity in terms of people. Let me tell you, there is one very similar thing with everyone, which is the basic qualification of anyone being part of what I do. You have to be a wonderful person. So it starts from there, and everyone is a wonderful person who's here. And beyond that, we don't care after that. It doesn't matter what you're a lawyer, not a lawyer, you do this or that. You have to be a wonderful person. So that's one thing for sure. And the good thing is that we're doing this on World Refugee Day. So I think that's a very nice thing. The other thing, I think, of course, what we'll do is maybe, okay, mediation, refugees and mediation is what we're talking about. So Anna, how do you want to start this? I mean, you set the ball rolling. How would you want to start this? Because it's a very, I mean, there'll be lots of areas there where mediation can come in, and with your present experience. So do you want to set the ball rolling?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can start. I can speak about on this theme because it is very close for me now. What can I say about the refugees in Ukraine, in my own country now? About last month, I knew that 8 million people were left Ukraine and moved to other countries abroad, to USA, Canada, and to a lot of European countries. So 8 million people who were evacuated and had the same problems. First of all, what can I say? The problems which had happened, these are problems with the basic needs and interests. I suppose you know the pyramid of psychologist Maslow. He tells the basic needs and interests. These are needs in food, where to live, where to sleep, where to work, and how to earn money. So the refugees have such problems, and me as a mediator had such a problem as well. And on this basic level, I understood they have, while having such problems, they have, of course, conflicts, but they don't understand the possibility to decide and resolve such a conflicts using mediation. Because as for me, the people, awareness people, understand that they can resolve conflicts using mediation only when they have closed and resolved their basic needs. When their basic needs are not satisfied, they will not use mediation, they will not go to mediator online, offline, very nice mediator, they will not go and use such a opportunity as for me. And I saw this abroad because I saw a lot of refugees, and I communicated with Ukrainian refugees. I told them about me and suggested them my services. But I saw in their eyes that this service isn't interesting and necessary for them now. Only when they will close the interest in basic interest and needs, they will think about another global possibilities, how to resolve their problems and conflicts. What can I say about the refugees else? As for me, when I saw the refugees in conflicts which happened because of the war abroad with them, or with the parts of the family who left in Ukraine and part of the family who moved abroad, and the conflict happened because of this distance and because of the war, of course, I see that such a conflict could be resolved with the mediation. But as for me, it is necessary for me, as I see, such people need to have awareness. Awareness, what does it mean? As for me, this is a understanding that it is necessary to live here and now. It is understanding that we don't have live only in future or only in the past. So it is necessary to live in the present time. So when the people time go and people begin to adapt in the foreign country, adapt in the foreign community, begin to study foreign language, send their children to the foreign schools, and then adaptation going better, well, they began to focus on the present time and to adapt apartments, their social community. They understand that it is necessary to live here and now. This is the first main thing, which it is for me. which is necessary for Ukrainian refugees to adapt and to develop in themselves. The second thing, it is necessary to analyze the conflicts, the problems, the situations from the different corners, to see the situation from your part or point of view, and from the another part or point of view. For example, if there are happen conflicts between the participants of the family, between the husbands, wives, between the parents and the children, between the grandmothers, grandfathers, and the children, it is necessary to understand. For example, the participants of the family left are now in the different countries. It is necessary to understand that each of them see the situation and the conflict from the different parts on the corners of the problem, of this situation. The one participant see it from the corner or point of view Ukrainian. He live in the Ukrainian country. He live in the atmosphere of struggle and war, and he has his own fear, emotion, stress. And the other part of the conflict live abroad. He doesn't see war, struggle, but he of course stressed because of this destination, because he doesn't have the opportunity, basic opportunity, to hug their native relatives, to speak with them, to see their eyes, and to speak about their emotions sincerely. This is the second main thing. The third main thing which I saw it is necessary to help maintain Ukrainian refugees, it is such a skill as a tolerance. Because of the war, people feel angry, people feel crazy sometimes, and Ukrainian people sometimes don't want to understand anybody, another people among Ukrainian people. So it is necessary to develop such a skill as a tolerance. The next fourth skill which is necessary to develop for Ukrainian refugees, this is the such a skill as to hear and to listen, because one of listen when we only see what another people say for us. The hearing, this is, as for me, this is understanding what the another people say for us, understanding their emotions, their feelings, their problems, their situations which happen with them. And from this fourth skill, I see the fifth, another skill which is necessary to develop Ukrainian refugees. This is empathy. It is, as for me, the most difficult skill because this is the possibility to understand of another, to understand another people's emotions and feelings during our own experience, during our own emotions, during our own feelings, problems. And because of the, and now it is very difficult to do because the problems and feelings and situations in our country with our Ukrainian people are very difficult, strong, and emotions are very on intensive level, are very high. And this is angry, great angry, and all the people see the another people and their points of view during this angry, among this angry, and to be empathy to another people, it is very difficult for them, and sometimes people don't want to be to show this empathy. These are all my own observation while communicating with the Ukrainian refugees. As a mediator, I see such problems with them, and necessity to develop such skills, to gather such knowledge somewhere, and because of this, during staying here abroad, I decided to do for Ukrainian refugees some online webinars, seminars to support them, to give them basic knowledges, to give them basic skills, and to give them basic supporting, and to help them to develop this emotional balance, and to help them to work with their emotions, to help them to work with the self-management and self-regulation. But it is necessary to, as for me, the time go down, and the people first of all clothe their basic needs or on eating, living, sleeping, working, earning money, and after that they could step higher on the next level of the pyramid of Maslow, where they can satisfy such interest and needs as the social skills. These are skills to friend with somebody, to love another people, to communicate, to maintain conversation with another people, not only with their relatives, with another refugees, Ukrainian refugees, with the foreign people which are around in their community.
Perfect. Thank you. You you've set the ball rolling very well. The only thing is that we have Lama here who comes in and goes out. Lama, you want to come in? She can introduce herself.
Yeah.
Yes, Lama.
Yeah. Sorry, I apologize for this late due to some problems,
Tell us about that. What you wrote some message there. You said we heard a nearby explosion. What happened there?
Always we hear that, but it's about the training for Israeli people nearby,
Okay.
for armies, and that's it.
Perfect. Oh, you'll have to tell us about yourself. Well, Intan is there. Intan is sitting at the back. We're just watching as a spectator. Intan, you have to be part of this here. Spectators, we have lots of them on YouTube and everywhere. When you're in the Zoom session, you have to be here. So, Lama, you have to tell us about yourself, and then we'll move to Vikram.
Me, Lama Aude from Middle East, Palestinian in origin, living in Lebanon. My mom Lebanese, my father Palestinian. I'm half. I'm a mediator from Middle East. I'm also a head of Palestinian people in South Lebanon, which is the head of legal Palestinian people in South Lebanon. We also do the mediation in our work, not only legal, or which is call it in Arabic musalaha. Okay, and as we said here, in Lebanon, find a lot of problems, especially of refugees and the people there. In Lebanon, as we know, it is a place for many refugees because of what we call the neighborhood attacks in terms of the presence of wars next to it. So these people are forced the neighboring country. This is because, unfortunately, the services of the United Nations can no longer accommodate the largest number of refugees in the world. And Ukraine recently caused all attention to be shifted there and to reduce the aid to Syrian refugees and the problems of displacement and Assyrian that resulted in the Arab countries as a result of the revolution. Also, like they called Arab Spring, meaning the revolution against the corrupt rulers, meaning that, of course, here divides the citizens in the same country into two groups, one with the authority and the rulers, and a group with the revolution against the authority and the rulers, and even the countries of others are faced towards one team against the other. As this also generates a conflict between them, here we begin the mediation process. Even the refugee crisis is not easy. The refugee is in a state of material poverty, has no means of livelihood, is at risk of good education and mental health, is deprived of well-being, and is in constant tension. Perhaps all this leads to the presence of violence. And the violence whether the refugees are between each other or with their countries of residence. Therefore, the idea of mediation came because resorting to the courts will exacerbate matters and lead to the occurrence of what we call in the Arab countries the prohibition of revenge and taking the framework. And matters will not end, and problems and crimes will follow generation after generation, and sometimes it is on trivial matters, and sometimes it is there are deep political differences here. It is important to work on mediation because it is the only way to stop these crimes, save generations, and an entire society, and establish a culture through constitutions of forgiveness and peace in the world. For example, refugee camps have many crimes of revenge. That is the revenge that is inherited from generation to generation. Most of them are rooted in political disputes. We start by creating seminars to educate individuals like awareness on peace, cultural thought, and the importance of building a healthy generation and a healthy society. Then we resort to mediation, whether with individuals or with parties, or security of political parties in major problems. Indeed, many times mediation has had its effects, and there were problems in which weapons and missiles were used and things calmed down. Mediation helped that choose to evacuate civilians from their homes or to stop the problem in an island manner and solve it in some cases, especially also in the extradition of criminals who escape or escape to the camps. Mediation worked with some influential people and the state to hand them over to the state to take legal action. So that mediation here helps justice and the court also. That's it.
Perfect. Perfect. So, but Lama, have you met Anna and Victor? Have you met them before? You haven't? You want to say hi to them first before Victor comes in? Yes. Okay. Lama's just looking at it. Amelie, they're there. There's some people out there. Okay. There's Anna there. There's Victor. There's Intan has walked in. She also took her time. Yes, Intan.
Yes, took a very long time. I'm here. It's a
Perfect.
Destination.
Yes, perfect, perfect. No, it's always look. We like I said, we have spectators on social media. Here we need participants. That's what we want you to do. Come in. Of course, Victor is going to take us through his experience, and then we'll all come in and we'll talk about it. Yes, Victor.
Thank you, Mediator Vikram. I think Anna did a beautiful work in setting the stage and the scene for all of us. And of course, Lama talked about, a number of things that are very close to my heart from a community mediation perspective and access to justice, and of course, skill development amongst refugees and migrants. Amongst the many problems that refugees and migrants face on a day-to-day basis is access to justice. And this is for obvious reason. These are people of low social and economic profile. These are people who have no livelihood. These are people who have almost zero access to financial institutions. And we can all agree around the fact that justice is expensive in some parts of the world. For instance, in Africa or Nairobi, Kenya, where I am right now, the whole concept of access to justice is justice to the highest bidder. And not everyone has the financial muscle at times to hire a lawyer, for instance. So representation is a big problem within the refugee and migrant communities. And this is where I am of the opinion that mediation it's like a panacea. It's a solution to this community, because community mediation, for instance, if you look at the concept of community mediation and conflicts between refugees and migrants and host communities, I think that community mediation is important so that at the end of the day, we have our relationships restored. Because truth be told, refugee communities, they need the host communities to be there. And the host communities as well, they need refugee communities. So it's a kind of a symbiotic relationship. From an African philosophy, we have this concept of Ubuntu. Ubuntu, in simple terms, is Lama because of Victor, and Victor is Victor because of Lama. Or to put it differently, Anna is Anna because of Vikram, and Vikram is Vikram because of Anna. So at the end of the day, coming from a continent where we look at things from a communal lens, I think mediation and community mediation, to be specific, does a great job in doing that. My work, to a larger extent, and I have been doing this for the last 6 years to speak, my work has centered on access to justice for refugees and host communities. And the importance of these lies in the fact that at the end of the day, justice is a need. We all need justice. And at times, all too often than not, justice is a luxury to most of these communities, especially in Kenya, in Somalia. What I've come to realize is that both host communities and refugee communities have low socioeconomic profiles. And this means that all too often we have scarce resources. And every time you have resources being scarce, conflict is bound to arise, because everyone wants to have a piece of the pie, yet the pie cannot accommodate everyone. So that's one of the fundamental causes of conflict in areas where you have refugees and host communities. So my work, to a large extent, has been to providing a community kind of a hub where we can have mediation take place when you have a dispute or a conflict arising between a host community member and a member from the refugee community. So my work, to a large extent, has been around that, mediation and even negotiation. And to take my work a little bit a notch higher, what I decided to do was look at things from a skill development, because I come from a background where I don't need to give you fish. I can teach you how to fish, and that's very important. And so based on that ideology, I thought that I needed to pass down these skills to some of these people. And the interesting thing about mediation is that it's a concept that we can all resonate with at some point in time. That's why you don't need to be, you don't need to go to school. And I'm sorry to put this, you don't need to go to school per se for you to be an expert mediation. I know institutions that provide training services for mediators. Mediators would be happy to hear these, but that's how I look at it. That's how I look at things. Mediation as a skill or as a craft is something that is deeply ingrained in every human being. We just need to extract some of these skills with time. And that's what my work has centered to a large extent around skill development and community mediation amongst hosting communities and refugee communities.
Victor, they might not be happy to hear you, but I'm very happy to hear this whenever you say this. You know this, skill development, yes, but the training part of it and all, yes. But before that, let Intern at least tell us about herself. Intern, please tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Hi, nice to see everyone. Hello, Mediator Vikram, legend. Thanks for having me. Yes, and you're right. There's so many spectators watching, the audience watching. Hello to everyone. This is an amazing platform and opportunity, and I would like to congratulate Mediator Vikram for putting everything together. It's really amazing. So I decided to make an appearance, as you said, to just casually walk in tonight because it's a topic very close to my heart. I am a mediator in civil and commercial matters, but I also do a lot of informal mediation internationally. I'm part of Mediators Beyond Borders International, UNDP Insider Mediator, and other organizations. And here in Malaysia, I found my own NGO, Amal Mediation, but I'm also part of different organizations championing refugees. So basically what I do is not as amazing as everyone else, where you can change policies and things like that. I work on the ground and personally with the refugee kids at a learning center called Ideas Academy. So building on what, Victor, what you just said about Ubuntu and things like that, it's really close to my heart because when I take on these kids, when they come a few years ago, right, when it was still a very gray area in Malaysia where refugee kids are almost not accepted and it's a taboo, it's very, very difficult, a difficult time for everyone. And it's also the skills and mediation skills and training that I try to impart on them, on the kids themselves, to negotiate their emotions or to be able to be more open about what they've gone through. So what I wanted to say is how mediation is effective in policy change and all of that. And that's true. When we have town halls, we have negotiations and we're still trying to ratify the treaty and things like that. That's all great. But also to help the kids, right, kind of adjust. So because when I came back, they said, we need a speech and drama teacher at the academy, at the center, right? And I said, I am not an actress. I have no skills, I don't know how to teach speech and drama, but I can teach mediation skills. And that's exactly what I did. So we would do like a huddle, for instance, and we would talk about what they had to go through. And through that, we try to emphasize on the use of communication skills. And these kids, right, from when they came, when they were, they'd rather not talk about where they came from and we rather not talk, they have very low self-esteem and things like that, where they feel like there's no end to this, where we're going to go, to having, to being able now, 7 years later, to be able to even enter universities, to be able to pursue certain skills in the language skills, pursue not careers, but, pathway to having actual careers. So I feel that being able to train the mediation skills properly would also be good for them to communicate with each other, but also with people watching them, right? Because of course they get visitors all the time, stakeholders that are interested, but most of the time, you're only allowed to talk to them. And then, that's it, like, how are you? I'm good. Did you eat today? There's no way of getting out information as to what do you want? How do you feel? Like, how do you feel now? Like, how are you adjusting? And I feel like having more training, like skills, mediation skills, would help them greatly, but that's from like a very informal mediation on the ground, really personally. But if we're talking about like policy changes and things like that, mediation is of course the best thing to do. Actually, during COVID, I had a Zoom town hall for refugee organizations, NGOs championing refugees and stakeholders. So we had, companies like Grab, we had logistical companies and also companies that were very keen to fund during the COVID trouble, right? Keen to fund organizations that needed funding at the time. And I felt in a way, mediation also helped bridge the gap so they could see how their efforts could help the refugee organizations or could help the refugee kids themselves. So in a way, I feel that, I'm also very happy to learn more about how I can adopt mediation skills or mediation as a whole to put forward this mission. Yeah, so
you're doing great work.
else
You're going to tell people how to go about it. You're doing great work. So that's really nice.
I feel that I can take on more skills. I feel like it's not enough, especially today. They had a meeting about we can't ratify the treaty, but there are other ways of helping them. But we are so happy to learn from other countries that if you can help out, you can throw ideas, we would be happy to collaborate as well. So that's why conferences like these are like amazing. Thank you, Mediator.
Thank you, Intan, for joining us, first of all. But what you're going to start is at what are the various levels that mediation is going to come in and at what stage. So, I mean, Anna has this thing that, of course, that there is that initial part of the basics is when what people are looking at. At that stage, is mediation coming in at any point of time? Anna, do you want to go stage wise? Because Anna, of course, is experiencing it, and Ukrainians are experiencing this at this stage right now. But of course, there have been people who've been facing this for quite some time. So your experience, would you want to say, maybe Victor, you want to look at it from the stage wise, having had quite a long experience on this? At what stage do you put in, at where all can mediation fit in?
I think at the initial stages, and this is because of course mediation is a process. We have as Intan put it, she is doing it at an informal grassroots level. And what I mean by early stages, I think we need to start this at a grassroots level. And the importance of this is because that all too often in these communities, our problems are grassroots problems. And this is why it's important that at the initial stages, so much of our attention, so much of our services go into it. Probably the fact that there is no interest in terms of funding to such kind of activities paints a picture. It paints a broader picture of the fact that things are still beginning to develop. We are still at the initial stages. If I was in a medicine class, I would say that, we are still at the embryo level of things. And therefore, it's important that even advanced lawyers of our character need to come down to the level of these people and give them some kind of a voice. And I like what Intan said earlier on, that, it's imparting skills is giving these people a voice. And voices have to start at the grassroots level. And I'm really glad that I'm beginning to see some kind of a movement in Africa. We have a number of community-based organizations whose primary concern is investing into community mediation and seeing to it that some of these skills are inculcated into people from such an early age. Mediator Vikram, you've had the privilege of hosting Chijoke from Nigeria, and so much of his work is centered around grassroots movements, going to classrooms.
I'm one of his trainers as well, peer mediation. He's also another boss. Yeah, so glad that you know about 3 Cs. That's amazing.
Thank you
for mentioning. Yeah.
Thank you. So that tells you that we are living in a fine, good time where we're beginning to see that mediation can be a solution to problems that we never thought mediation could be the solution or panacea. So my opinion, my humble opinion is that, we need to go down there and begin to give them voices as well. So when you train a child, for instance, what you have done is that you have empowered that child to be a better human being in life. Every time I have speaking engagements and I'm training people, my first priority is to make you a better human being. Because if you're a better human being, that makes that translates or means that you are a law-abiding citizen. You are a good. Chances are you'll be a good wife to somebody. Chances are you'll be a good husband to somebody. Chances are you'll be a good teacher. You'll be a good plumber, doctor, and so on and so to speak. So this thing has to start, as early as possible. And the greatest opportunity for that is at the grassroots level.
Well,
that's my 2 cents.
Right. Victor, the idea being that, of course, the aspect of being good human beings, definitely all that has to happen. The whole focus is on mediation, because look, that larger discussion keeps having all the time, all the good things, that all the qualities we have to put out there and people have to imbibe. But the focus on mediation then goes away. So I'm saying from the mediation perspective, that where would mediation fit in? And if you said mediation skills, when we talk about mediation skills, those are mediation skills, not the larger being a good human being skills. So on that aspect, and where will that skill be used, and where all can it be used, at what stages, at what levels? And look, like I said, Anna is in a situation where they've just started. So she says, look, basics are what we are looking at that stage. Where does it fit in? And then as we move on with people's experience, they would tell us what all happened, like Lama speaking about crimes, and in the criminal aspect of things, where does that mediation fit in? Because obviously there are what the reasons are for crimes happening in refugee camps, and the whole generation after generation, like she said. So I think we'll have to maybe kind of look at it from stage wise. That's why I was saying, if Anna has some initial experience, Anna, because you already started talking to some schools and other things, what are you seeing there, Anna? Yes, Anna. So Anna, first stage,
just a moment.
Yeah. At the first stage, where can mediation fit in as mediation, not the larger conflict coaching and being a good human being training? Besides that, where does mediation fit in? I wanted to start from there, because it's just about getting exposed to what the issues are coming up around you. So what are you looking at?
No, as for me, the main mediation skills, the main mediation skills which it is necessary to help to provide in the society, in the community of refugees, or not among the refugees. These are the skills of, as I told, as to hear and to listen. The next skill is the asking the questions, to ask the three main and golden question of each mediator. What do you feel? What had happened? And what do you want? Why do you want something? These are main golden questions, as I told, and I studied the participants of the conflicts to use them, and I study on my trainings the participants of the trainings about the mediation skills. Next is for me to show empathy and to be empathy. I told about this told about this too much. This is such a skill which connect you with another person and make you closer to another person. This skill will help you to open another person to you, and to be another person sincere to you. What is the next skill? The next skill is for me, just a moment, paraphrasing. Do you understand what I mean, paraphrasing? To ask and to give conclusions, to hear and not to stop another person, and to give asking a question with a conclusion, and to see, did you understand another person correctly? And if you understand something in your own way, which you using your own experience, minds, and thought, it is necessary to ask the question: what did the person mean? What did the person feel? And while such in communication, the first main thing which will you do for another person, you will help him to develop his emotional intelligence. And on this way, when the person connect with the mediation during the first time, I suppose the person will not understand that while communicating with a mediator, he grow up and develop his emotional intelligence. This process of growing up and developing and transformation using mediation, the person will understand, and the participant of the conflicts will understand only when the time will go down. In 1 month, for example, 6 months, the person will see, will observe transformations inside them, transformation in another person, and transformation in the communication between the participants of the conflicts.
Because what we're trying to also do is that where are those opportunities for mediation? One is how to do it is, of course, I mean, that's a whole discussion by itself. What are the skills required for the mediation? But the opportunities for mediation, what are the situations that you are seeing in front of you where you can see that, yes, here mediation can be really helpful? So what is developing, because you are seeing something which is starting off at a situation where refugees are coming into, of course, Victor is going to come in after that. Victor, you're definitely going to come in. You're the experienced person. You are going to be coming in. But Anna, what opportunities are you seeing for mediation at the early stage right now?
Opportunities for the mediation right now?
Yeah.
Which are the opportunities? As for me, this is the opportunity to educate the Ukrainian refugees which are abroad, and to share this way of resolving the conflicts among the Ukrainian people abroad. Because on my own experience, I see that not only Ukrainian people, not all the Ukrainian people know what is the mediation is, but a lot of foreign people in Spain even don't know what is the mediation. But the mediation and the law of the mediation was founded in their country in 2012. And while communicating with the people which I met on the street, and I tell them, introduce who I am, what do I do, they feel, as I see, they saw and hear about the mediation only for the first time. So it is a possibility to share and to make the mediation widespread service, not only in Ukraine, all over the world.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking that, like I was saying, that when these children are going into these schools, do we have some opportunity there? And then when you're getting into new communities, are there issues coming up where mediation could have come in? So I'm looking at actually stages wise where all things have to be put in place. But Lama is not being fair on us. Lama, how can you start having tea without offering to us? Lama?
Yes.
How can you have tea without offering to all of us? All alone, you're having tea. You're having tea all alone. Why?
Yeah,
What about us?
Tea.
It's not tea.
It's only cafe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then it's allowed. Only tea you have to offer. Okay. So Lama, we are looking at what stages, what are the opportunities for mediation as refugees come in? Because Victor, I want to get him later because of his vast experience. He's going to, of course, take us through the whole thing. But let's get the thoughts from you, Lama. As you've seen opportunities for mediation, where all have you seen opportunities?
There is a big of use mediation, especially nowadays, because all the legal issues, it's about mediation, but indirect way. We solve it like court, and they didn't have enough of money to go to the courts and put lawyers, you know, not even the useless of this way, from the budget and from the time, quick time, and as I said, to enough the crimes generation after generation, and like that.
Okay, perfect. So
But
Victor,
it's new for them.
yeah. So Victor is going to tell us about his experience in terms of what stages at what levels. Yes, Victor.
Definitely, mediation is not going to be a square peg for every square hole. That's one thing that we need to understand, because we operate, mediators operate within a legal system. And for instance, in my jurisdiction, issues that are penal in nature, where you have crime, usually the state takes precedence over such issues. So that's a no-go zone for a mediator. That's in Kenya, and probably in most countries that practice a common law jurisprudence. Again, I'm so sorry for using legal jargons in your show. I'm so sorry, Mediator Vikram, rather. To your question, I have seen issues of socio-economic and cultural disputes come on my mediation table. And the importance of mediation is right from the word get-go. I'm going to cite a situation in South Africa where we have been having for the last decade a pattern of xenophobic attacks by locals who are South Africans against economic migrants from all over Africa. And the thing has sort of developed and morphed into now organized crime. And this is something that began, out of resource scarcity. Locals will say that economic migrants are coming to take our jobs. Economic migrants are coming to take, they're making money, out of our land. And these are economic issues that if you go to places like Jordan, you go to places like Lebanon, you will hear the same story, where you have communities that are hosting refugees saying that, these folks are coming to steal our jobs. These folks are coming to make our culture look bad. So most of the issues that I have mediated over have their origin in economic. They have their origin in economic, which is a scarce resource scarcity. We have issues to do with culture as well, because people have different cultures, and at times human beings can be very apprehensive towards other cultures. So that's a common issue that I have seen within the refugee and hosting communities areas. And these are issues that I think right at stage one, they should be managed, or they should go through mediation before they morph into other things, as we have seen in South Africa and other parts of the world. And then again, I feel that mediation as well, we need to empower our law enforcement agents with some of these skills, because I have seen refugees, complain or cite issues to do with law enforcement. And this is because at times law enforcement agents do not understand the kind of backgrounds that these people come from. Some of these people are traumatic, and therefore it would be a travesty for you to see them as an ordinary citizen, while in actual fact, this is somebody who needs healing. Yeah, so again, from a healing perspective, mediation would be a good product or a good practice.
No, but what you
That's
have,
my 2 cents.
look, I tell you what, Victor, we have to go beyond skills now. We're saying that when the interaction with the law enforcement, there are issues there. So let's say there is mediation required there at the first
Yes.
instance, whenever something. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to focus on the actual mediation, because the skill part of it, what goes on to it, of course, I know about it and we'll discuss that. But the actual, this is the important part that you said, because of the fact that this is someone who's interacting with law enforcement and might not be able to, maybe just not be represented properly. So that's one of the areas. So let's just think of all those areas because Intern will come in and tell us, Intern, what do you think in terms of what stages of actual mediation opportunities there are?
Okay, so now we're talking about law and order. I would like to take you back a few steps just now when you mentioned the stage where they're joining a center or something, joining a new community, right? And from my experience, I saw that actually there's a story behind that why I wanted to teach them mediation skills, because before that they requested to do all this Zumba and K-pop dancing classes, which is not my expertise, but the kids wanted it so much. But I realized that caused a lot of animosity between each other. So they had different groups, because we're talking about different refugee camps here that came from different camps, right? So apparently they were very cliquey, and there would be conflicts and physical violence, and the teachers and mistresses would not know what to do and just fault it on they had a rough start, right? And I realized after we started doing the huddling and the whole mediation skills, they were very empathetic towards one another, and the words that they used were more, they understood where each other came from. So I feel that in terms of what Victor said, in terms of healing, that could lessen crime in the future, that could lessen tensions in the future, that could lessen a lot of why are we here, we're not wanted, a lot of that. So mediation skills, for me, skills, when I'm talking on the ground, at that level where they're trying to adjust to their new lives, it's so important for them to heal and to understand that everyone's going through the same thing, rather than, oh, where did you come from? Where did I come from? Or I came from here, so therefore I'm more superior. But there was one particular experience that I'll never forget, was we had the huddle, and the most dangerous guy, the most rascal and the most troublemaker of all, actually, he broke down and he said, my brother died on the way here. He couldn't get on the boat with us. And that's why this is my way of tormenting everyone. This is my way of getting over it. And because he said that, it switched. Everyone understood and everyone became more empathetic towards him. And he became the student leader after that. So in a way, if you're talking about at the initial stages, the grassroots, mediation skills are so important, because they'll take it upon themselves. They'll try to, it'll be ingrained in them, and then they go home and they try to educate their parents, their family, their siblings, and the people they live with to be empathetic towards one another, to have very good, active listening and all the mediation skills, soft skills. So if you're asking about that stage, that's the opportunity I saw personally. I saw a huge difference in a K-pop dancing class.
Do you realize the problem that has happened? The K-pop and the Zumba dance world has lost someone to mediation. You would have been on the other side. You
they enjoy it more. They look forward to it.
You would have been part of that world. They have lost you to mediation. Are they happy or not? We don't know. No,
they are. They request for it. So every week they request, when it's my period, a free period, they request for what they want. So since I started the mediation class, but I call it speech and drama, they always request for it every week, so they can get through, get through the issues together, and they feel more united. And I feel that's what mediation is, right? To be able to get that out, all the emotional stuff.
No, what I'm trying to put across is that, like you said, those skills could have been useful. I'm saying actually an atmosphere of mediation where these children, they could themselves be mediators there, who could be identified, and they actually doing mediation. Here, my focus has always been on the actual process being available or being done. Skills part of it is a general thing. That's another general aspect. But
meaning for them to take on the process and do peer mediation, for instance.
Yes.
That's exactly brilliant. Peer mediation for refugee kids. Perfect.
Exactly.
I
That's what I'm saying. So these are the opportunities that we have to identify, because at the children level, definitely things are going to happen because
Yeah.
they're coming in from different backgrounds. Language might be an issue. The cultural aspect will be understood or not. So we need a peer mediation, as in peer mediation, as I understand it, because when I spoke to JJ also, I was telling him,
Yeah.
one is when we are going about generally telling them to be good human beings, that's a very nice thing, but we have to actually have them sitting across a table and resolving the dispute. And if they could do it themselves, within themselves, without any external authority figure being around also, that's the empowerment of the people. That's the kind, that is what for me peer mediation. That's why I don't sometimes like to, want to move away from that word, because that word has become more on the general education on how to manage conflicts and all that. So I'm on the actual part. So one opportunity is to create some kind of a, whatever you call it, a mediation center or a mediation space for children in schools, for them to be able to resolve things within themselves. What else? What is the next stage after that? What do you say, Lama? First is at the schools, these children are going in. Then in the communities.
Yeah, look, I know some people whose Israeli army killed his father. Then they make like a camp, like a school of peace, a summer camp, and they collect the Palestinian with the Israel to can talk and make a peace between each other, especially who's killed from the Israeli army, you know. But may it seem some solutions or some peace in their hearts. And also my grandfather and my uncle killed from Israeli people. I know we don't have a problem with Jewish, you know. It's only between the Israeli army who's won the war only, you know. And the future will depend on the persons only, and on the mental things, which we should make a lot of awareness to the people, to make him more peace, to calm the peace around the world.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just thinking, how do you do that? I mean, I'm just saying from the mediation perspective, what kind of a setup do you create and whom do you bring in to that? That is what I'm trying to put across.
We should to begin to solve the problems in the first way by mediation. We should to try a lot of times.
So what are those problems, Lama? You have to tell us, what are those problems that are required to be solved at the first stage itself? What all are those?
It's the divisors between between the wife and husband, especially these things. And the big problems that it's when they begin a small war.
I think Anna wants to
want to to enter the camp by force, and then make some stress between two.
Okay, so
their land.
Victor, did you get that? Victor?
Hello.
Did you catch what Lama was saying? Because I think
yes.
Yeah.
I think she's drawing our attention to the fact that from a cross-border perspective, there are lots of opportunities in that, where you have, different cultures, different communities interacting. There are a lot of, there's profound opportunities for mediation in that area. And that's something that myself, I have not taken so much effort to look into. But having had a speak, it's drawing my interest on that as well. Because every day I wake up, I keep on learning new ventures for mediation, and that's going to be the pattern. 10 years down the line, we'll still wake up and we will have a light bulb moment that there's this particular area that needs a mediation.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm thinking is, Inthan, why don't we look at it from what are those issues that, of course, on very specific level. One, we always normally try to generalize and say, oh, at the community level, there are things. But in the community level, there are so many things which go on. So let's try, if we can, to identify what are those types of issues that are coming up or do come up. And
let me identify one.
Yeah.
One problem definitely I'm going to highlight, and I'll look at it from different spin-off and lenses, would be resource scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
And I already mentioned that, where you have migrant communities and hosting communities. If you go to regions like Sahel, and this is where we're beginning to see global warming coming into our practice. Right now, as I speak, we have mediators who identify themselves as mediators in climate change related issues.
Yeah.
If you go to regions like the Sahel, which is in the northern part of Africa, what climate change has done is that it often leads to drought patterns. And most of the communities that live around these areas, these are communities that practice animal farming. And when you have drought coming into the equation, it means that you have a little resource that has to be shared probably by two different communities, because you have a community that has moved from an area that is drought prone to an area where you have water resources. And with climate change, this water resource has gone down. So you have little water that has to be shared between two communities that are coming from different parts of the world. So already you have resource scarcity, you have a problem of cultures, you have a problem of customs, and so on and so to speak. So that's one way I see community mediation developing into an independent or standalone discipline of its own.
Because I'm just trying to subdivide that community into the kind of situations. You said resource scarcity, because I'm going to come back to you, Victor, on the creative solutions that you might have seen. Let's talk about positives after that. So, Inthan, what do you say? What are the various...
Just taking on what Victor, because I think what I want to talk about is completely different, but just to touch on what Victor just said in terms of climate change and mediation, I do agree. In terms of that, it needs to be a standalone, independent research. But I also feel that the method by which mediation is being adopted to highlight or to mitigate the issues is also one thing. I'm not going to say, but I was part of a project which wanted to sort of rectify climate change, but they were focusing on the material. They were focusing on highlighting climate change as a problem in the role plays for the process of mediation, when you train. And I felt like that's not really, it's not enough, You need to really go down to the core. And like you said, from places like that, create awareness from places, Sahara, and realizing that some other parts of the world have more access, easier access to resources. And that's where you will sort of marry the two and use mediation as a way to combine.
Because we have from climate change in relation to the refugee movement, because that's what Victor was saying, that one part will have some scarcity, and because of that there will be some issues that will come up. So connecting it to that at all times in this discussion to see what.
I just thought about it like that, because that was the last project where I felt a bit like, oh, okay. But in terms of issues which you just mentioned, I feel that when it comes to specific issues here, in terms of refugees, of course, the access to justice, right? Access to, when, like you say, when you have a host country and you have, it's always the access to fighting for them to get a job, always, because now they're always trying to depend on organizations, depend on what they can get, right? And then you have private individuals fighting for them to get jobs, for them to get access to schools. So it's also access to what they can get. If only we could ratify the treaty, but we can't. It's just improving improving their access to really good education, a better way of getting jobs, and better quality of jobs. Because some of them are so bright and so talented, but because of who they are, they can't have access to that. And there's always that 1 out of 10 that could go to proper university, right? And then that would be considered a hero for another 10 years. Like, see, we sort of accepted a refugee, and we don't want that. We want that to be a norm. We want more refugee kids to be in universities, to be in schools, even to be in training academies like polytechnics is fine, right? So I think in that sense, specific issues is to improve their way of life, to increase quality of life. I mean,
at all points of time, you'll have to connect it to where mediation can fit into such situations. Because if getting jobs there is an issue there, what kind of issues that have come up, and could those issues be resolved through mediation is what I'm trying to keep it a little focused on this, because what happens is, I don't know why. Why I'm saying that is because of the fact that these general issues that refugees face gets discussed a lot. But finally, to resolve it through mediation, and what are those issues, let's put that into place. And then, this whole aspect of the criminal justice system, and what kind of access do refugees have, what issues they face. So do we need a refugee mediator, criminal mediation kind of a service available, so that at least there is that first opportunity, kind of one call, there is a mediator available, Victor's called in, that this person is
like an expertise in just mediating refugee sort of in the criminal terms or in other terms.
Yeah, that's what's coming out of this. That's come out in what Lama said, what Victor said. It seems to be one issue that comes up, and Victor will throw more light on it after you finish. So this aspect so I'm just trying to connect it to actually what we can do on the ground. Like I said, schools seems to be an issue in communities where people have moved in. And look, one is sensitization of communities, that's a different activity, and one is mediation. I want to keep differentiating these aspects always, for me, because once we have this general thing, let us tell the communities how they should all live together and be good human beings. We'll do that.
World peace and all that. But Mediator Vikram, I have to ask, so if you set up a system that's like that, that's separate just for them, say, okay, someone got in trouble, going to mediate the conflict, we call Victor, Mediator Vikram, or Mediator Vikram, whoever, right? And then you get it solved. Will it help the other, will it help the community as a whole? Will it help? Wouldn't it be like, then there's another case, then there's another case? Will it help in the bigger picture?
No, that's what's going to come through now, because of the fact that when you're in a mediation situation, you will get into the root of the issue. You'll understand the root of the issue, and then to put into place policies that have to be done, mediation in that, so that to put policies in place, you get the government, you get the, if there is legislation to be, there's a lot of activities will come through that where mediation will be required. So I'm saying we're just trying to first identify issues that are coming up for that refugees actually face, where mediation could have helped, identifying those areas, what can be put into place there, and from there what else will come up. Because finally, if you have to create that whole chain, like you said, it's not just about one person and one issue and resolved. No, it is a systemic issue which needs to be resolved.
And but at the end, it's always going back to the policy level, but having enough to identify to get to that.
But in the policy also, mediation to be an important area.
And that's, for me, that's what everyone should focus, to have that one mediator that could really make an impact in everyone's different countries, right? For me, I always say you need an Amal Clooney from Malaysia to actually make that difference,
Why Intern is going to do it? What do you say? Intern is going to make all the difference. Why do we need anyone else? No, but I tell you what I'm going to come to next is that if you have policy changes to be made, are refugees sitting on the table to discuss those things or not? So that's what Victor will tell me about that. Victor, Victor, do you?
No, okay, thank you. Excuse me. At some point when Intern was speaking, I thought that she sort of summarized my story about are giving some of these less privileged individuals opportunities to go to school, and so on and so to speak. So I have benefited from the goodwill of such institutions, well-wishers, and individuals to a very great extent. In a month's coming, I'll be going for a program at Harvard, and that just goes to tell you that how this particular group of people that we are talking about today can be very instrumental in leading change, in provoking and causing policy frameworks and so on and so to speak. But that's besides the point. My point is, in Nairobi, this is what I've seen. I have seen a kind of a consortium approach to things. And by consortium approach to things, I mean that I have seen the United Nations Specialized Agency on Refugees. I have seen the Kenyan government. I have seen groups on ground come together and take an approach where we have seen local administrators. And by local administrators, I mean chiefs, and this is because we live in an environment where we have a decentralized system of government, where at the bottom of the food chain we have offices of the chief, and the chief is somewhat the representative of the president at a community level. And I have seen some of these chiefs, given the skills, I have seen them empowered with skills on mediation, because this is a fact that we can all relate to. Many a times, when you have masses of running into crime is pretty high. So at this level, we see chiefs being empowered with the skills on how to handle such kind of people. And therefore, in that regard, I see some form of mediation that is a product of the state on the one hand and non-state actors on the other hand. So that goes to tell you that political commitment and willingness, it's going to be important if mediation is going to prosper and blossom at a grassroots level at that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so but I mean, in terms of identification of areas, I was just trying to, we've kind of covered everything, Victor. Is there anything that you feel has got left out?
From where I sit, I think today we've had quite a constructive and a comprehensive conversation, and I look forward to maybe a part 2 of this.
Perfect. We should. Because the idea finally, Victor, is at the end of the whole thing to be able to actually look at what is the actual, in a way, solution. Let's not, I mean, solution is a big word to use, but what are the steps to be taken so that each of those areas where things might be developing, say from the Ukrainian perspective, things which can go escalate to that level. Before that, with someone with your experience or Lama's experience, can already say, okay, this is where it's going. Because what happens is, like she said, what Anna was saying, that look, right now they're looking at the basics. So you're looking at the basics, and we'll think about this later. But by the time you think about this, already things have kind of could get escalated. So I'm trying to say that from your experience, the steps and areas where these opportunities should be created, because I'm seeing this, the criminal aspect of it being an important thing which is coming out. So let's start. They should be talking to whatever, to the police or the government, that they have these experienced people who are around available. Ukrainians will be available. So why not them be called in when someone gets hauled in for something which they might not even know what happened. I don't know what kind of things come up, but at that stage, so that's one immediate thing that can be put into place. And this is not something that you have to have someone physically there. Can definitely be done online. So that just give you one example. Similarly, the schools and the communities, workplaces, what's happening at workplaces? Is there anything there?
We're beginning to see some kind of agency. And oftenly when you talk about migrants and refugee issues, there's lots of dependency, because we have assumed to a larger extent that these are people who are of low skill, And at times that's not the case. So there's lots of assumptions, when you are talking about refugees, migration, and these kind of communities. There's lots of assumptions that we need to debunk, that we need to demystify and deconstruct, so that we can have these people as agents. Because right now, as we speak, so much of what we are saying is not led by these community themselves. So there's lots of dependency, around this community. And by dependency, I mean that most of interventions that are being put in place are not led by these people. So there's a gap of agency there. There's a gap of agency for us to see more, for instance, mediators who are migrants, mediators who are refugees. There's a gap there, and that's a gap that I feel at some point we will need a holistic approach to that. So that's one issue that I'd like to bring to the fore and to surface. Now, to your question, whether we are beginning to see some kind of workplace mediation, I'd say yes, but this is still at a very minimal stage. Yeah, and why am I saying that? If you look at the African fabric or the African society, we are pretty litigious society, and this is a point that I have alluded to on many occasions, and I don't want to belabor on that. So that goes to tell you that mediation is still, trying to develop its limbs and trying to creep into our corporate world where things are pretty much litigation. So I'd say, yes, we're beginning to see some footprints of workplace mediation within this community, but nonetheless, I'd say that we need more, we need to put more effort into that.
Well, one important thing that has come out from what you just said was because of the fact that there will be skills available with people who are refugees, but being mediators, is there some kind of a entry barrier that countries have? So should countries, first of all, have entry barriers in general, and for people who are refugees, for them to be practicing as mediators? For me, look, I told you, generally there should not be any entry barrier to be a mediator. It's the trust of the person or the people who are in dispute. So in that sense, do you think that has ever created a problem? Have you seen that being a problem, that practicing as a mediator being an issue for a person who comes in as a refugee because of entry barriers in a country?
My knowledge is only confined to the East African community. And this is a conversation that has been going on for quite some time. From a legal perspective, where we have seen people from Uganda, for instance, people from Kenya, people from Tanzania, saying that having lawyers, for instance, from Uganda practice in Kenya, that amounts to them stealing our work. Yeah. So this is a conversation that I have seen purely from a litigation perspective, but I'm yet to come across a situation where you have a mediator from Uganda practicing in Kenya, and we have seen backlash. So this is something that is new to me. I am yet to see a situation of that context. But should one arise, definitely, I'll let you know. But definitely, people here are pretty apprehensive towards other people coming from other parts of the world and coming to steal our jobs.
Because the thing is that finally, of course, we are looking at an online development of mediation. So in that sense, of course, that because the physical presence is not there, do you think that makes a difference or not? We don't know. But Lama, are you there with us? So I think these are, because one more important area which I want to move to next after this is that once of whatever issues are, we'll take 2 minutes, I think, Victor, that's all we'll take. Basically, you have a certain issue because of which that person became a refugee, say in this case between Ukraine and Russia, whatever happened. Now, are refugees taken and are they on the table when discussions in relation to maybe whatever, bringing peace in that area, whatever has to happen, are refugees part of that process or not? What do you think, Lama? Are they, or should they be, are they taken into account?
Here, the government also, when they make the mediation, with refugees and some problems. They make like mediation in direct way in the past. They make dialogue, discussions. It's all means mediation in reality. Then now it's called like kind of mediation. And in the future, of course, the future will go to this kind of solve the solution about mediations and my point of view.
Because Victor, you understood what I'm saying, Victor, that when the actual, say, what we call the peace process happens, are refugees on the table or not?
I don't want to sound pessimistic, but all too frequently, they are not part and parcel of the peace process. And this, as I alluded to earlier on, it can be connected to a number of assumptions. One of the assumptions, is that, these are people who are of low skill, for instance. And therefore, if they were to participate in a peace process, they are not qualified. Yeah, they don't have the requisite skill set to participate in that kind of engagement, which to me is an assumption that needs to be debunked. That's one. And the number two, their voices all too often are not heard. And that speaks to an agency problem. That's why one of the biggest problems in the refugee and migrants discourse, it's problem to do with agency. These people have not been empowered enough to develop some kind of their own agency. So these are issues that moving forward, we need to engage and we need to dissect.
Indan wants to come in at this stage.
Mediator Vikram.
I have to say this, like, I just feel that it's always the stigma that they're always seen as a vulnerable party, right? They're always not invited to have a voice, like you said. And it's about empowering them, right? And I feel that when Mediator Vikram, when you said whether they would be part of the peace process, I think if you see a lot of the conflicts around the world internationally, most of the time when the parties involved, are present, like are allowed to be part of the process, it is more effective. So in that sense, I think, it's to get over the taboo, or what I see is to get over the taboo and make them part of the process.
Yeah,
and
because
present in the, right? Yeah, because they are going through it and they know. So that's why it's important to, like you said, stages to empower them to know, like just now, Anna, right? Anna also mentioned that, to ask those important questions to make them aware of their sense of, what they can do, what they're, where they can go from here, stuff like that. So I think, to answer your question, I believe that they should be present. Yeah.
So what's going to happen, Victor? I know you want to leave, so you'll have to just summarize for us what all we have discussed and what are the steps and the way forward and what else. Everything, basically, is concise, 2 minutes of 1.5 hour discussion.
Wow, that's going to be a tall order, but I'll try to make an attempt. I just want to celebrate you, Mediator Vikram, and celebrate Lama for availing her services. Thank you, intern, for showing up. And of course, Anna, who is not here. So I celebrate all of you folks. Down to what we have gone through today, we have looked at a wide array of issues, ranging from access to justice, of course, which is a broader conversation in legal circles and legal communities. Then we spoke about law enforcement, which is a window it's a window of opportunities for mediators to begin to see things from such lenses. And then thirdly, we spoke about disputes at a community level, and we isolated a number of issues which have got to do with resource scarcity. At some point, we talked about climate change and mediation. I don't know whether we will have maybe a conversation on that, but from where I see, these are important issues that have sort of come to my attention that we need to talk about draw more attention and effort and conversations on. And at some point we spoke about agency, refugee and migrants agency. And when I see the likes of Lama here, when I see the likes of Anna, who are refugees by a background, coming out strong and picking issues of refugees and handling them, taking some kind of a bull's approach to it, it makes my heart happy. And then, of course, to have, experts like Sarita and Intan, coming into the conversation, that's just, this is a good day for humanity. That's how I would characterize today. It's a good day for humanity. And all thanks to Mediator Vikram. Thank you.
Victor, that's beautiful. I think that was a beautiful summarization. Of course, we
like 2 seconds, like Victor, I really today I was just so blown away and so impressed. Like, I took note. I'm like, oh my God, this is someone I have to look out for. Seriously, I will, I feel like in the next 10 years, in 10 years time, I would see you, out there, and I'd be like, yeah, once I participated in a Zoom thing with him by mistake.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you.
I'll definitely get to you.
Yeah.
I'll get to you through Chijoke.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. We'd love to have you.
And imagine that what I'm going to look back after 10 years and I say, Victor was there on my show. And
yeah, exactly. That's what, and Lama as well, right?
Lama as well, exactly. And Intan as well.
But I learned so much in this session. Thank you so much. Because like I said, I work on the ground and I understand sort of the policy work, but I always say it's impossible. But I see all of you today and I realize this is possible for the kids that I work with and that are close to my heart. It's possible. And you really inspired me tonight. So thank you to all of you, to Lama, to Victor, and to of course to Mediator Vikram for making all this possible.
Thank you very much. Lama still has to give her summarization and conclusion and closing remarks. Yes, Lama.
Yes.
Yeah, first I would thank very much for you first to collect us, and I would to thank Anton, Victor, and Anna. I'm really interested in this session, and it's fruitful. It's fruitful for us and for the one who will watch it. Because it's a new thing to mix the mediation with the useful to be with the refugees.
Yeah, because there will be a follow-up to this, which I will then get you people together on. But this is what we were just discussing, the larger issues now. Because for me, it's about working on the ground. There are enough discussions which happen, but on the ground, what are the things to be done? Let's put them in place. So that's what we're going to do. And get people together on that, or like-minded people on that. So that's my focus now. Let the conference get over and then we'll start working on those areas. So thank you very much, Victor, Lama, Intan, and Anna. She's not here right now, but thank you very much. Lovely talking to you people. And of course, we'll see you. Please drop into other sessions of the conference. Yes, Intan. You're saying something.
There's another one right after this, right?
That's it. The next one starts at 9 o'clock.
Okay, all right.
That might be a little late for you, but it'll be very interesting because family constellations, a very interesting concept. Yeah. Gabriela and I have had lots of discussions on that. So you obviously, by the time that starts, you can always watch them on the YouTube channel. Just search Mediator Vikram, Gabriela on YouTube. You'll find them. So it's interesting concept. I mean, I'll definitely
watch it. I'll watch it in the one at 9. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Bye. See you.
Bye. See you. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.